our next performer, or almost at the end, our next performer is a gentleman who everyone knows, and he would be doing something special. Everything was dancing and singing. Now, please help me welcome Brandon Wolfe. Hi, Brandon. How are you? Okay, so I'm gonna ask you, what will you be doing for us today?
I'm going to be telling a folktale from Yiddish tradition, probably going back to 17th, 18th century.
That'll be very interesting. All right, good luck to you. Please, go away.
Thank you. I just want to give a little bit of a preface. Judaism is often thought of as a religion, but for this story, try and think of it in like the academic sense of an ethno-religious group, because it's much more about the ethnicity with maybe a couple touches of the religious sides. But it does have a religious set piece, so I'm just going to preface with that. In the Western tradition, there's a story where humanity started out in a garden, and it was paradise, blah, 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 blah. However, they were tricked by a snake, and ever since then, they got kicked out of paradise, and they really didn't get along after that, humanity and snakes. So with that, I'll begin. Don't worry, it's going to make sense. So this man was walking down the road in Israel, and it was cold. Very, very, very cold. The wind was kicking up, and he's taking his jacket, and he's pulling it closer. When he catches himself, he almost trips over, he notices on the ground a snake that barely moving, and he looks at it, and he takes pity, and he says, "Let me gather up this snake." So he gathers it up, and he huddles it into his jacket, and he's walking down the road, passes just the outskirts of the capital. He keeps walking. The snake starts to, move a little bit, and he keeps walking. He's huddling the snake closer, when all of a sudden he starts to feel the snake slithering up his back, and wraps itself around his neck. And then the man goes, "What are you doing?" And the snake, baffled, looks at me and says, "I'm a snake. Isn't it obvious? I'm going to eat you." And the man goes, "Whoa, wait, that's not fair. I saved your life." The snake looked at him, and not sure why this guy didn't get the whole snake-human relationship. He kind of explained it again. And the man goes, "How about this? Why don't we have a trial?" Because, a Yiddish folktale wouldn't be complete without a Jewish lore, I guess. So the snake, for some reason agrees, and he says, "Okay, fine, but who are we going to get to adjudicate this trial?" The man says, "Whatever creature we see first, we'll just ask them." So they're walking along. As you can imagine, not the least awkward of silences, when they see an ox. So they go up to the ox, and they're stumbling over each other, and the ox, slow down. What seems to be the problem, guys? So the man explains the whole situation, and the ox, for some reason nonplussed by this very odd situation, says, "Sure, lay out each of your cases." So the snake points to himself, "Snake," and the ox looks, "Yep, that's a pretty good argument." And the man, he explains, he said, "This isn't fair. I saved his life. He shouldn't get to eat me." And the ox turns to me and goes, "Fair? I'm an ox. I work all day with a farmer. At the end of the day, he goes and drinks wine and sleeps in a bed. I sleep in a barn and drink cold water. At the end of his life, he's going to be a venerated grandfather. At the end of my life, I'm going to be a hamburger. I don't buy this fair argument." Court finds in favor of the snake. Snake's very excited by this, and the ox walks away, and the man goes, wait, that's not fair, that's not fair. The jury wasn't fair in this situation, and the snake, with the whole hamburger remark, thought that maybe he was right, it wasn't fair. So they keep walking down the road, and come to a donkey, and I'm just going to kind of skip that because fairy tale's like threes, and it really plays out the same way. So on to the third one. The man, he says, okay, I want to be tried by a jury of my peers. We'll go to the king. The king is known to be very fair. So the snake, for some reason, not extremely annoyed by this situation, agrees. Maybe he gets indigestion when his prey is too combative. I don't know. So they go to the capital, and apparently it's really easy to get audience with the king to be heard a trial between a man and a snake at midnight. So they go and they present their case to the king, and the king strokes his beard and, well, I guess, and the snake is excited because he sees the sadness in the king's eyes, and he can almost taste this combative old man. And the law does say that snakes and humans are enemies, and, well, but the prince, who is very shrewd, as princes are, and very kind, he breaks in and he says, Father, wait, doesn't the law also say that when there's a quarrel, both parties have to stand before the court? And then the prince kind of winks at the man, and he goes, stand? And the king is like, well, looking at them, and the man standing there, the snake coiled around him, ready to kill him, and he says, I guess this doesn't quite count as standing. And motions to the snake, and the snake uncoils himself from the man and kind of like arches up on his back, as I imagine in the story, even though it isn't explicitly stated. And then the prince goes, now! And then the man hits the snake with a stick, and then the snake sees that he's been beaten and slithers away. The man thanks the prince for his cunning and thanks him for saving his life, and they have a nice dinner, and everyone lives happily ever after, except for the hungry snake. So that's the tale. I was looking back on it, and I was thinking, all right, so it's a fairy tale. So what's the lesson of this fairy tale? No good deed goes unpunished for the man who almost gets killed for trying to save the snake. If you're ever in a court battle with a snake, don't represent yourself. Instead, get the prince to do it for you. I don't know. So it didn't really resonate with the kind of like the Jew growing up in the 90s in the suburbs of New York, this kind of like mistrust and whatnot. So I was thinking, like, why is this an important story to tell? Why is it an important story to kind of like keep alive? And I thought that, it's a cultural artifact, because I looked, it hasn't really been reprinted since the early 20th century, and since then it's kind of fallen out of favor. And I thought, and Sarah Brown, I'm gonna get meta here, it's because of events like this culture show and the multiculturalism that we try and celebrate here at Ross, that there hasn't been as much of a need for this kind of story, this kind of distrust, that instead we have better lessons that we should trust each other, and we should try and embrace each other's cultures and, get to know each other better. So I wanted to thank the culture show and whatnot for allowing me to tell this story, and yeah, thank you.